The Queen's choice. The sky turned dark even though it was still morning. People looked up, confused. Then they saw it, a giant alien ship, bigger than any building on Earth. It slowly moved across the clouds, blocking out the sun. All around the world, people stopped what they were doing. News channels, phones, radios, everything started playing the same message in every language. Human named Ethan Cross. You have been chosen. Step forward. No one understood what was happening. Who was Ethan Cross? And why would an alien ship come all the way to Earth, just for him? Ethan Cross was just a regular guy. He worked in a small garage on the edge of town, fixed broken engines, cleaned dirty tools. Nothing special. He lived alone in a small apartment and barely spoke to anyone. He didn't even have a pet. That morning, he was drinking cold coffee and looking at the same broken wall in his room when his phone started ringing nonstop. Friends, news reporters, strangers, all asking the same thing. Are you the Ethan Cross, the one they're looking for? Before he could answer anyone, the sky above his town cracked with lightning. The giant alien ship stopped right above the garage where he worked. A loud sound shook the ground. People ran, screaming. Soldiers arrived. Cameras recorded everything. But no one could stop what happened next. A beam of golden light shot down from the ship. It landed right in front of Ethan. Out of the light stepped a tall figure, covered in glowing silver armor with eyes that burned like stars. She looked like something out of a dream, or a nightmare. This was Queen Zarana. She was the ruler of the most powerful alien empire in the galaxy. Her name was spoken with fear on 1,000 worlds. She had destroyed planets, defeated armies, and never shown weakness. Until now. Because right in front of millions of watching eyes, the Queen of the Stars bent her knee. She knelt before Ethan Cross, a simple human, and said in a calm, deep voice, I have chosen you. Come with me. Everyone went silent. No one dared to move. Even the soldiers stood frozen. Ethan looked around, unsure if this was real. His hands were shaking, but something inside him felt calm, almost like he had been waiting for this moment. He walked forward slowly. His boots crunched against the gravel. The light surrounded him. He looked down at the powerful alien queen kneeling before him. Then he whispered something only she could hear. You think you chose me? No. You just answered the call. Her eyes widened, just a little. For the first time in years, Queen Zarana looked unsure. Before anyone could ask questions, the beam of light pulled them both up into the ship. The giant alien vessel began to rise into the sky, and then it vanished. All that remained was silence, and 1,000 unanswered questions. Inside the alien ship, Ethan stood in a glowing hallway made of something that looked alive. The walls pulsed softly, like they were breathing. Shapes moved through the floor, like memories trapped in crystal. Queen Zarana walked beside him, her armor folding away to reveal her face. She was beautiful but cold, like a living weapon. She studied Ethan carefully as if trying to solve a puzzle. You are calm, she said. Most humans would cry, scream, or faint. Why are you different? Ethan didn't answer right away. He placed his hand on the wall. The ship reacted, lights turning blue, soft humming sounds filling the air. Zarana's eyes narrowed. This ship only responds to my bloodline, she said. No outsider has ever controlled it. Ethan looked at her. I'm not just an outsider. Before she could ask more, a hologram appeared in the air. It showed the faces of alien leaders across the galaxy. They were arguing, shouting in different languages. But one message was clear in every voice. This cannot be allowed. A human? She chose a human? This is war. Zarana turned away from the screen. She didn't seem worried. Let them talk. They do not understand what I have seen in you. Ethan nodded slowly. They will. Soon. He looked out the window of the ship, watching Earth disappear behind. Them. Somewhere deep inside him, something was waking up, a feeling older than memory. A voice whispered in his mind, soft and cold. You were born for this. As the ship entered deep space, one thing was clear. This was no simple love story. This was the beginning of something much bigger. The galaxy didn't know it yet. But a storm was coming, and at the center of it stood a human named Ethan Cross. Secrets of the Queen. The stars outside the window moved faster than light. Ethan stood alone in the quiet chamber, feeling the ship hum beneath his feet. He was no longer on Earth. That world felt like a forgotten dream now. But this felt strangely familiar. The chamber wasn't made of metal. It was alive. The walls pulsed like a heartbeat. Symbols glowed on the surface, and not in any language Ethan knew, yet somehow he understood them. They told stories, wars, lost empires, a secret history written in light. A voice echoed behind him. Cold, clear, and strong, you shouldn't be able to read that. Queen Zarana stepped into the chamber. Her armor was gone. She wore a simple black robe, yet power still clung to her like gravity. Her golden eyes watched him carefully. I'm not sure what I'm able to do, Ethan replied, still staring at the wall. But this ship, it knows me. She tilted her head. That should not be possible. Ethan turned to her. And yet here I am. She said nothing. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Zarana stepped forward and touched the wall. It responded to her too, but not in the same way. The symbols turned red when she touched them. When Ethan touched them, they turned gold. I brought you here because I felt something in you, she said. A strange signal, ancient, powerful, but this is beyond anything I expected. Ethan frowned. What do you mean? Zarana looked away for the first time. Millions of years ago there was a war, not between species, but between bloodlines. One of those bloodlines was human. Ethan felt his heartbeat rise. Your kind were not weak back then, she continued. They were creators, warriors, kings, but they vanished, wiped out by something even older. Only fragments remain, myths, ruins, and your name. My name, Ethan whispered. Zarana nodded slowly. The name Ethan Cross is found in ancient archives. 10,000 years before your Earth even had cities. Your name is a warning. Later, Ethan walked alone through the ship. It was massive, like a floating world. He passed strange rooms full of light and crystal. He saw alien guards, tall, silent creatures with glowing skin and no mouths. They bowed to him, confused and afraid. Something was changing. He entered a control chamber where the ship's core pulsed like a giant heart. Without touching anything, the lights shifted. The ship spoke in a voice only he could hear. Welcome back, Highborn. Ethan froze. Highborn? The ship answered, but not in words, in memories. Images flooded his mind. A burning sky, a golden city, and a war. One so huge it tore apart suns. In the middle of that war was someone who looked exactly like him, but it wasn't him. It was a version of him. A clone, a memory, a prophecy. Ethan stumbled back. His nose bled. His head ached. But something inside him had been unlocked. He wasn't just chosen. He was designed. Meanwhile, in a shadowed hall deep inside the ship, a group of alien generals whispered. He is too dangerous, said one. This human, he wakes the old, codes. Even the ship bends to him. The Queen is blinded by curiosity, said another. We must act. A third, older alien with deep scars on his skin, leaned forward. The Queen has broken tradition. The Council is watching. If she does not kill him, we will. Back in her private chamber, Zarana stared at a floating image of Ethan. It showed his blood, his bones, his cells. She had tested him without his knowledge. The results made no sense. His DNA was human, but also not. Something old, buried deep inside, had begun to awaken, something even she feared. She touched her chest where her heart beat slowly. For the first time in years, she felt something unfamiliar, doubt, and something worse. Hope. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He stood in a quiet garden at the edge of the ship, looking at the stars. Galaxies swirled around him like rivers of fire. Then a voice whispered from the darkness, "You should not be here." Ethan turned fast but saw no one, just a shadow moving between the trees. "I'm not here by choice," he replied. The voice laughed. It was deep and old, not alien, not human, something else. "You were never meant to be found, Ethan. Cross. Now the stars will burn again." Suddenly pain shot through Ethan's head. Images exploded in his mind. Worlds dying, a crown of light, a throne made of bones, and a name. One he had never heard before but somehow belonged to him. The Harbinger. He fell to his knees, breathing hard. Then he heard footsteps. Real. Once Queen Serana appeared, eyes wide, hand on her weapon. "I felt it," she said. "Someone was here." Ethan looked up at her. "I think they were waiting for me." Serana helped him stand. She looked into his eyes, and for the first time she didn't see a human. She saw a threat, or maybe a god. And far away, in the cold dark of space, ancient things began to move, because Ethan Cross was awake, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Empire rebels. The silence inside the ship was heavy. Ethan stood in the central command chamber, surrounded by glowing symbols and pulsing lights. It had been 3 days since he arrived. 3 days since the world changed. Since he changed, the ship moved quietly through a hidden path in space far from the eyes of the galaxy. Queen Serana said it was for safety, but Ethan could feel the truth. She was hiding him, not from enemies, from her own people. In the heart of the imperial capital, on a massive floating fortress known as the Throne Ring, the Council of High Lords met under black light. They were old, proud, cold, and furious. "The Queen has broken the first law," said Lord Trezek, his long fingers tapping the table. "She has chosen a human as mate, as heir." Another hissed. "She has not taken him as heir. Yet," Trezek said darkly. They played a recording, Ethan's voice, his words to the Queen. "You think you chose me?" "No, you just answered the call." The council was silent. Then Lord Vorn stood. He was the commander of the Imperial Guard, a veteran of 10 planetary wars. "Then we must answer, with fire." Back on the ship, Ethan sat with Queen Serana in the war chamber. Holograms showed news from across the galaxy. Riots, panic, protests. Every race in the Empire questioned the Queen's sanity. "They fear what they do not understand," she said. Ethan looked at the screen. "And what exactly am I, Serana?" She didn't speak for a moment. Then softly, something that was never supposed to wake up. Before he could ask more, a sudden alarm screamed across the ship. Red lights flashed. The ship's AI spoke. "Breach detected. Unauthorized teleport. Throne-class signature." Before anyone moved, a pulse of light struck the chamber. 4 armored figures appeared. Imperial assassins. Their armor was made of shadow. Their weapons whispered as they moved. They didn't speak. They came for Ethan. The room exploded into motion. Serana moved first, like lightning wrapped in fire. She struck 2 assassins before they blinked, but one broke through. It raced toward Ethan with a glowing blade. He raised his hand. There was no weapon, no shield. But the assassin froze in place. Mid-air. As if time had stopped for him alone, Ethan stared into the assassin's eyes. They were black, empty. Then the man began to scream. Not from pain, but from memory. His own memories, pulled from his mind by something Ethan couldn't control. When it was over, the assassin dropped to the floor, unmoving. Ethan looked at his hands. "What did I just do?" Queen Serana stepped forward slowly, her expression unreadable. You used a weapon lost for 10,000 years. Memory burn. Only the first humans had that power. The other assassin crawled away, terrified. He's not a human. He's a ghost. Zarana turned to her guards. Take him. Prepare the ship for war. That night, alone again in the Garden of Stars, Ethan stared into the sky. His heart was heavy, his mind full of voices. He felt wrong, like something had been planted inside him long ago and now it was growing. The ship whispered again, calling him by a name he didn't understand. Highborn of the last sun. Echo of the first spark, he whispered back. Who am I really? And the ship answered. You are the beginning, and the end. Back on the throne ring, Lord Trazek watched the footage of Ethan stopping. The assassin. Too dangerous, he said. Lord Vorn slammed his fist. We attack tomorrow. The Queen will not survive. Neither will he. The next morning, Queen Zarana stood at the main window of the ship. Behind her, Ethan walked in slowly. I can feel them coming, he said. She nodded. They bring their fleet, their fire, their hate. He looked at her. What will you do? She turned to him. Something no queen has ever done. She walked to the center of the chamber and pressed her palm to the floor. A deep hum shook the ship. Lights changed color. Walls opened. A long, glowing spear rose from the ground. I will fight with you. But your people, Ethan started. They are not my people anymore, she said. You are. And then the alarm screamed again. Hundreds of ships appeared outside. The Imperial Armada, the Queen's own empire, had come to destroy her, and the human who now held their future. Ethan stepped forward. His hands were shaking, but his eyes were calm. He looked out the window and spoke not in fear, but with something ancient in his voice. Let them come. The lost planet. The battle never came. The Imperial Armada surrounded Queen Zarana's ship. But they didn't attack. They watched, waited, feared. Inside the ship, Ethan stood still, feeling something shift in the air, not outside, but inside himself. He no longer felt like a passenger. He felt like a key, and the galaxy was a locked Jogur. The next day, the ship jumped to deep space, to a region marked dead on all Imperial maps, a place no one returned from. Space here didn't feel right. The stars blinked slower. Light bent strangely. The AI whispered to Ethan. Approaching. Lost coordinate. Origin 9. He stood beside Zarana in the control chamber. What's there? He asked. The Queen hesitated. A planet that shouldn't exist. Suddenly, through the dark mist of space, a shape appeared. A planet. Floating in silence. No satellites. No signals. No sound, just darkness and gravity. But the ship began to pull itself toward it like it had found home. Zarana looked disturbed. I didn't set this course. Ethan stepped forward. I did, but he hadn't touched anything. The ship obeyed him. They landed. The ground was gray stone, cracked with time. Strange trees grew sideways. The sky above wasn't black. It was a deep purple, like an old bruise. Air was breathable, but full of static. And in the distance, a tower. Not metal, not stone. Something older, built before language. Ethan walked toward it, like something was pulling him. The tower's doors opened without a sound. Inside were carvings, human faces, human hands, and at the center of the floor, a symbol burned into the ground, a sun breaking in half. Zarana gasped. That's the mark of the fallen flame, a rebel line of ancient humans. They were erased from history. Ethan knelt and touched the symbol. Suddenly, memories. But they weren't his. They were from a man with his face 10,000 years ago. In a great hall, that man stood with a crown of light. In his hand, the same golden spear Zarana had summoned. At his side, an alien queen, just like Zarana, but not her. Then, war. The stars fell, and the man died, smiling. The memory ended. Ethan stumbled back, breathing hard. "What did you see?" Zorana asked quietly. He looked at her, shaken. "I've been here before." That night, a storm swept over the planet. Lightning cracked purple across the sky. Ethan couldn't sleep. He walked alone toward the edge of a cliff, overlooking an ancient crater. The air felt strange. He heard a voice, not the ship, not Zorana. A third voice, deeper, full of power. "You are close to waking, Harbinger." Ethan turned but saw no one. Then slowly a shape formed from shadow and ash. A figure wrapped in armor made of bone and glass, eyes burning blue. "I was there when your kind fell," the figure said, "and I have waited for you to rise again." Ethan stepped back. "Who are you?" The figure tilted its head. "Your other half." Suddenly Ethan collapsed. Images poured into his mind. Worlds ending. Ships turning to dust. Time bending around a throne. And one terrifying truth. Ethan wasn't just a memory of the past. He was the last living spark of a race built to rule and to destroy. He woke up in Zorana's arms. She was terrified. "You stopped breathing for 3 minutes," she whispered. He sat up, eyes glowing faintly. "He came." "Who?" she asked. He turned toward the crater. "The first traitor." Before she could respond, the ground shook. Something was waking beneath the tower. The AI screamed from orbit. "Planet core unstable. Hostile power detected. Unidentified technology rising." The tower began to lift, not just upward, but outward, unfolding like a blooming flower, and at its center, a ship. Not any ship. A human Empire command vessel. Perfect. Untouched. Waiting. It responded only to Ethan. As he approached, the ship lit up and spoke. "Welcome back, last sovereign." Zorana stared. This is impossible. But Ethan already knew. He walked into the ship, and it came to life around him. He turned back to her. "This was never your empire," he said softly. She looked down. "No," she agreed. "It was yours." And then the ancient ship launched into the sky, carrying a message to the entire galaxy. "The Harbinger has returned." Across the stars, worlds went silent. Some prayed, others screamed, and in the cold space between galaxies, something older than fear began to move, because Ethan Cross had remembered who he was, and the universe would soon remember too. Voices of the past, the ship whispered, not in words but in memories. Every corridor, every panel, every step Ethan took inside the ancient vessel revealed something deeper. This wasn't just a ship, it was a tomb, a cathedral, and a warning. Ethan stood in the heart of the vessel, the command bridge. Unlike Queen Zorana's living warship, this one was silent, black, sharp. Everything was made of polished obsidian-like metal. As soon as he entered, it accepted him. It recognized him. Symbols pulsed across the floor beneath his feet. Then a voice echoed. "Identity confirmed. Sovereign Cross Variant E98B. Welcome to Ark Vessel. Memory of Fire. Initiating Legacy Recall." Suddenly the room went dark, and Ethan was no longer alone. He stood in a memory, not a dream, not a vision, but something real, stored in the walls of the ship. Around him, a golden city burned. Great towers crumbled. Ships exploded in the sky. And at the center of it all stood him, or someone wearing his face. This man was older, wiser, and furious. He fought side by side with other humans, leading an army against beings that looked like shadows. Behind the enemy lines, an alien, Queen, not Zorana, but close. She smiled as the human world burned. "We warned you," she said, her voice like poisoned honey. Humans were not meant to rule forever. The vision snapped. Ethan collapsed on the floor of the bridge. Queen Zorana ran in moments later. "You triggered the memory bank," she said, kneeling beside him. Your DNA activated something buried for centuries. Ethan looked up at her. They weren't just enemies, your people were part of it. She looked away. There was a war, she said slowly. Long before our records, my ancestors allied with the Shadowborn, beings who feed on memory, time, and light, to stop the human empire from taking full control, and they won, Ethan said bitterly. No, she whispered. We survived, but at a cost. She handed him something. A cube, glowing with golden light. What is this? It's the key, she said, to the final archive. The voices of the past. Later, inside a sealed room in the ancient ship, Ethan placed the cube into a pedestal. The room changed. Dozens of ghostly figures appeared around him, not spirits, but recordings. All wore human armor. All had the same look in their eyes, hope, pride, and the fear of extinction. One by one they spoke. If you are hearing this, we failed. You are our echo, our spark, our revenge. The galaxy will hate you. They will fear you. But they will kneel again or burn. Then one final voice came forward. A woman, her eyes golden. Her face was calm and familiar. You were never born, Ethan. You were built, shaped, hidden in time, carried through bloodlines until the moment the galaxy broke again. Now, it breaks? Ethan trembled. He turned to Zorana. I was never human? She shook her head. You're more. You carry the soul of humanity, and the fire of something even older. Outside, the stars shifted. An alarm rang inside the ship. The AI's voice turned urgent. Anomaly detected. Unknown entity approaching from subspace. Breach in time layer 7. Unauthorized presence confirmed. Zorana's face went pale. No one should be able to track this ship, she said. Then came the voice. Not through speakers, not through sound. It entered their minds. You woke him, so now I come. The air thickened, lights flickered. A long shadow stretched across the ship's floor even though no one was there. We took your thrones, it whispered to Ethan. We erased your cities, and we left only one to suffer. Ethan felt something clawing at his memories, trying to pull them out. He screamed. Zorana grabbed his arm, anchoring him. She shouted, AI, counter the intrusion! The ship responded. A burst of light surrounded them. The voice faded, but not completely. You are not ready, Harbinger. When you remember everything, you will break. Then silence. Ethan collapsed. When he woke, the ship was quiet. Zorana sat beside him, armor cracked from the psychic blast. He turned to her. That thing. What was it? She answered slowly. The last of the Shadowborn, the one who ended your kind. And now, he knows you live. Ethan stood shakily. He looked out the window. Stars. Infinite. Cold. I can feel the rest of my memories coming, he said. But they're not just mine, are they? No, Zorana said. You carry the memories of everyone who died in that war. Millions. Maybe more. Ethan closed his eyes. For the first time, he didn't feel small. He felt heavy. Heavy with memory. Heavy with destiny. The voice had said he would break. Maybe he would. But not yet. Now he had a question to answer. Not just who he was, but what he would become. In the far edge of the galaxy, the stars pulsed unnaturally. An ancient prison, long abandoned, cracked open. From it crawled a being made of black mist and white bone. It looked at the stars and whispered, Bring me the last flame, and I will finish what we started. The final war had not ended. It had only been sleeping, and now it would wake. The queen must fall. It began with silence. No alarms, no warning, just a soft, flickering message on the edge of the ship's data stream. Judgment has arrived. Ethan stood on the bridge, his reflection staring back at him from the dark glass of the command panel. Something was wrong. He could feel it in his bones. His ship, was nervous. And ships this old don't get nervous. Then the AI whispered, "Unauthorized beacon, royal signal, originating from inside the ship." His blood turned cold. In her chamber, Queen Zarana stood before the mirror, her ceremonial armor half worn, her face unreadable. She could feel it too, the pull of fate, the scent of war in the air. Suddenly, the doors slammed open. 6 Imperial guards entered, her own elite soldiers, but their eyes held no respect, just orders. "Queen Zarana of the Ember Line," one said. "You are under judgment by the Empire for treason, for choosing the human, for hiding the Harbinger, for betraying your people." She raised her head, calm as ever. "You would point weapons at your queen?" Another replied, colder this time. "You are queen no longer." They raised their rifles. But before a shot could be fired, the walls pulsed gold. Ethan had arrived. The guards froze as the old ship shifted around them. Metal, moving like liquid, cutting off their exit. Ethan stepped forward slowly, eyes faintly glowing. His presence wasn't loud, it was terrifying in its calm. "You've made a mistake," he said softly. The lead guard pointed his weapon. "You are the mistake." Ethan didn't raise a hand. He didn't speak again. The ship did it for him. A pulse of golden energy dropped every soldier to their knees, armor burning, weapons cracking like glass. They weren't dead, but they'd never stand against him again. Zarana stared at Ethan. "You're changing," she said. He nodded. "I'm becoming what I was made to be." Hours later, a message was received from the Imperial Corps. It wasn't a warning. It was a verdict. Queen Zarana has fallen. Her authority is void. Her title erased. All loyal to her will be hunted. The Harbinger must be delivered alive, or in pieces. Begin planetary cleansing. They were coming. With fleets, with judgment, with fire. Zarana stood in the throne hall of the ancient ship, now stripped of titles, empire, and protection. She watched the stars from a wide obsidian window. Her armor felt heavier than ever before. "I thought if I chose you, I would control fate," she said to Ethan. "But I was wrong. Fate does not listen to queens." Ethan stood behind her, silent. "I betrayed my empire," she continued. "For you." Ethan spoke then, quiet, cold. "You didn't betray them. They betrayed you." She turned to face him. "What do I do now?" He looked at her, really looked. Past the crown, past the armor, past the blood. "You fight," he said, "with me." As their hands touched, the ship flared with light. Not fire, not technology. Legacy. It was waking up fully now. The core of the ship revealed something never seen before. A second chamber deeper than any room in space. Inside it was a throne, not a seat, a command module. A control system for every lost archive, every ship in deep space, every weapon, sealed away after the fall of the human empire. Ethan approached it, but he didn't sit. Not yet, because at that moment, the enemy arrived. Outside, space twisted. Not with ships, with something worse. Rifts. Tears in space made by forbidden machines long thought destroyed. From them poured the cleansers. Machines mixed with bone and shadow, designed to burn entire civilizations. At the center of the fleet, the execution ship, the place where fallen rulers were erased. Their name, Remaker 1. Its order, erase Queen Zarana, seize the Harbinger. Ethan stepped to the window. "I'll go alone," he said. Zarana grabbed his arm. "You'll die." "No," he said, "I'll remind them." She watched him leave, the last sovereign of a forgotten empire walking toward 1,000 guns without fear. Inside the execution ship, the council waited. But Ethan never knocked. He entered, The walls melted around him. The guards screamed, not in pain, but in fear. He didn't touch them. He simply remembered them, and their minds collapsed under the weight of memory. At the center of the hall stood a new High Lord, cold, smiling. "You cannot save her," he said. "The Queen must fall." Ethan stared at him. "She already did," he whispered, "and she chose to stand back up. And then, fire, but not fire made by tech. The flame, the ancient spark of human power, long lost, rose from Ethan's chest, a crown of light forming over him, forged from history, blood, and defiance. The High Lord screamed as Ethan stepped forward, light burning through shadow, breaking machines, melting weapons. "The Queen must fall," Ethan said. "Fine." He raised a hand. "Let your empire fall with her." And then everything shattered. When Ethan returned to the ship, he was weak, body shaking, vision blurred but alive. Serana held him up, her voice breaking for the first time. "I thought I lost you." He looked at her, eyes dimming, the fire fading for now. Not yet. Outside, the stars burned differently. The Empire was wounded, but not dead and far away. The enemy had seen what Ethan truly was, and what he might become. In the dark void, the last Shadowborn general watched the light flare and whispered, "He found the throne." Then we begin the end. Rise of the Human King. The galaxy held its breath. The Empire was broken but not gone. The Council shattered but not silent. And in the shadows of forgotten stars, the ancient enemy of the Shadowborn began to rise again. All while one man, no longer fully human, no longer fully mortal, stood at the edge of destiny. Ethan Cross, the Harbinger, the last sovereign and, perhaps, the first king of a new age. The throne inside the ancient Ark vessel stood silent, not made of gold, not stone. It was built from star metal and memory, forged by creators long extinct, bound to one bloodline only, the blood of flame. Ethan stood before it, hand trembling. He had touched death, walked through betrayal, crushed gods and memories alike. But this was different. He looked to Serana, standing beside him, stripped of her crown but stronger than ever. She spoke first. "Once you sit, you won't rise the same." He nodded slowly. "I haven't been the same since Earth." Then he turned and sat. The moment his body touched the throne, the ship screamed. Not in pain. In awakening. Every sealed Ark vessel, across the galaxy, every hidden fortress, every forgotten relic of the lost human empire, lit up. A signal pulsed through space, reaching systems that hadn't seen light in centuries, and above all of them, the voice of the throne echoed. "The king has returned." On a dying moon orbiting a red dwarf star, the last council lord stared in horror. "We failed," he whispered. "We didn't stop him in time." Behind him, a whisper of Shadow, the Shadowborn general, emerged from the darkness. "You never could." The lord turned, shaking. "You said the flame was dead." The general smiled, a face carved from cold bone. "And now, it burns too bright." He raised a hand. The council lord dissolved into dust. One sentence echoed into the void. "Prepare the swarm. We go to war." Back on the throne vessel, Ethan was changing. His mind burned with voices. Not madness, but memory. All the leaders who came before. Every soldier, every scientist, every fallen human soul who once shaped the stars. They weren't dead. They were inside him, waiting to finish what they started. He opened his eyes. Gold. Sharp. He spoke. But it wasn't just his voice anymore. The past remembers, and the future obeys. Serana stared at him, tears in her eyes. "Do you know who you are now?" she asked. Ethan rose slowly. "Not who," he answered. "What?" The throne ship began its journey toward the Galactic, Kurskir to the final gate, the place where the war once ended. and where it must begin again. Allies came, ships piloted by outcasts, former enemies who remembered the truth. Machines long shut down that woke at the signal of the Harbinger. A new fleet formed, not for conquest, for survival, the last stand, the final fire. They reached the gate, and it was already open. The swarm had arrived. Thousands of ships made of bone, darkness, and living silence. At their center, a fortress unlike any other. A shape that twisted reality, powered by stolen memories and devoured souls. Inside it, the last Shadowborn. A creature beyond form, made of every world it had consumed, and it had one name on its mind. Cross. Ethan stood on the command deck, cloak rippling behind him, Zorana at his side, the new fleet behind them. He spoke quietly. End transmission blackout. Send a message to the galaxy. The AI hesitated. Message? Ethan nodded. One word. The message went out, across systems to hidden colonies, dying empires, sleeping AI gods. A signal carried on light, fire, and truth. Rise. The battle was like no other. Stars exploded, time bent, machines screamed, souls merged with systems. Every ship that stood with Ethan fought like it had lived 10 lives for this moment. Zorana led the outer line, her bioship tearing through the swarm. Ethan faced the fortress. Alone. He entered. Inside, it was cold. Quiet. A memory of extinction. And there, in the center, waited the Shadowborn Lord. You are too late, it hissed. You cannot rebuild what we destroyed. Ethan stepped forward. The light of the flame around him brighter than ever. You didn't destroy us, he whispered. You delayed us. They clashed. The flame and the void, the harbinger and the shadow, the past and the hunger. Reality twisted. Space screamed. The fortress broke apart from the inside, and in the heart of the storm, a light pulsed once, then vanished. Silence. The swarm stopped moving. One by one, the ships collapsed. Bones cracked. Shadows faded. The war was over. Later, on the bridge of the Ark vessel, Queen Zorana stood alone, waiting, watching, then light. Ethan stepped through a door that hadn't existed before, changed, human, and not. The fire still burned behind his eyes. She ran to him, held him. Is it over? She asked. He didn't answer. Instead, he looked out the window, at a galaxy reborn, and he whispered, No, it's just beginning. Across the stars, the name Ethan Cross became legend, not just a warrior, not just a harbinger, but something more. The first of the new kings, the last of the old gods, a human who chose to rise.